boy. So boy, you in hell covered in soil. Y'all need to think more with your mouth closed. You the resort of a man not in the household. That's why you so violent and you seeking out foes. Nobody taught you how to be a man. Lash it out though because you actually hating yourself. It's a way to get help and not decay in a cell. I used to wait in that hell until I made it myself. And now I'm slaying my L's and how I'm taking what's left. Got the blueprint, study my movement. More than the 2 cents. Was losing, now I'm oozing with success. Now I got the tools to beat the stress. I lose cause I'm a step ahead of you with no contest. I'm a better rapper, plus I'm smarter than you. You a mess. Not gonna lie, I'm at the tall figures. I don't even wanna be involved with you the way I am because I want it all quicker. And I ain't stopping till the family all richer. Not gonna lie, yeah, I'm at the tall figures. I don't even wanna be involved with you the way I am because I want it all quicker. And I ain't stopping till the family all richer. Rap circle. I'm better than you. Period. Not at all concerned what it hit for, cause I've still come to raise hell like Mephisto. Please don't front, cause I'll karate chop your lymph node. Noodle arm punk, you punch and end up with your wrist broke. Don't need a 4-heater, but you come 4 feet approach me. I'm summoning focus of Gogeta. Slight work, so imagine me chilling when folks meet up, cause my purpose to have me relaxing with both feet up. Get the cream, precious metals or the crypto things. Your bars are light like the one that's on a Smith machine, but my Maxwell and I ain't speaking about the pretty wings. Watch your potty mouth or clean it out with the Listerine. I got a list that mean eclipsing me is not an instant thing. You about as generic as antihistamines. Listening is not your strong suit, that's why you fiddling. Focus on the wrong stuff, your bluff is getting bucked. What you are witnessing is greatness. Outpacing these cats that I'm racing are not cheaters. They house cats are straying outdated. Rhymes got as much meat as about a raisin, just face it. While I'm steady on the track, you with your bags at the station. What I'm rated? S-class minimum. You sad synonym, cause I'll bag 10 of them. And you brag at dinner, but your impact is minimal. I toe tag in intervals with no lag precision, that critical, you imbecile. I'm at the tall figures. I don't even wanna be involved with you the way I am because I want it all quicker. And I ain't stopping till the family all richer. Not gonna lie, yeah, I'm at the tall figures. I don't even wanna be involved with you the way I am because I want it all quicker. And I ain't stopping till the family all richer. I'm not convinced it ain't no acting or accident what the track emits. You strapped with gas that you ain't even practiced with. The fact is, you couldn't hit the target the size of a tractor. Kid relax and retract it, cause all that rapping biz is blind sight. And that explains what your mind like. Refraining from looking down your iron sights. Some training will get your line right using that 9 tight. Straining your spine, think it's okay, but rewind, cause your shooting stance is trash. Probably cause you didn't have a father, so your partner slid you a Sig Sawyer. Now a lawyer is trying to keep you from getting life. Fighting who is loyal cause you hit an innocent boy. So boy, you in hell covered in soil. Y'all need to think more with your mouth closed. You the resort of a man not in the household. That's why you so violent and you seeking out foes. Nobody taught you how to be a man. Lash it out though because you actually hating yourself. It's a way to get help and not decay in a cell. I used to wait in that hell until I made it myself. And now I'm slaying my L's and how I'm taking what's left. Got the blueprint, study my movement. More than the 2 cents. Was losing, now I'm oozing with success. Now I got the tools to beat the stress. I lose cause I'm a step.
Ohayou gozaimasu. Welcome to Ohayou Anime. Another more episode of the morning show spin-off thing I'm doing here. Today we have a guest. So everybody say irashaimase to Mike. Mike-san.
Hi.
So yeah, we've anybody that's been watching the regular podcast on the Rocks, they'll recognize Mike from when did we have you on? What was that episode?
Oh man, I don't remember the numbers. Dude, I barely can
what were we
remember what I
talking
had
about?
for breakfast.
I can't remember what the topic was.
Well, I had just I was playing Halo a little bit at that time. I think we were talking about The Witcher season 2.
Oh, that's right. That's
We
what
did
it
a couple
was.
of those. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So Today, though, we're going to talk about Demon Slayer, and it's going to be spoilery, full of spoilers. Um, Before we get there, I should ask, have you been watching any other anime since you wrapped up Demon Slayer season 2?
Well, did a little casual viewing type thing, but I haven't delved into anything. I do want to pick up the new One Punch Man series. I want to dive into that, and I read the manga for the Dragon Ball arc with Moro. So I'm still behind on that, and I haven't gotten to watch it. Really, really anxious for that to come out in the anime, because I'll dive all over that
Okay.
one. But
Have you uh do you watch much UFC at all?
I go back and forth. I haven't not recently.
Okay.
Not recently. What's been going on there?
Well, I just noticed the how many fighters have Dragon Ball tattoos. You know, it's a pretty a pretty common thing. Um,
Sure.
and just before this, I was watching this Gohan kind of video that I don't know. It's not really an AMV. It's not really an anime music video. It's
Okay.
kind of like that thing I sent you before. It's sort of a encapsulating the story, but with a song and like picking up some certain
Yep.
emotional beats or whatever. And
Yep.
so I was watching a thing like that, and I just thought to myself, I wonder if some of these fighters play something like this to get hyped
Oh,
before they jump in the octagon. I mean, I don't know
for
what.
sure. That's the thing about the Dragon Ball series is like it's not the greatest from a storytelling perspective. Although, as I watch some more of those videos, like the one with Piccolo you sent me, I'm like, man, this is hitting like emotionally hard. I think there's just so much in between in some of the Dragon Ball seasons and anime that like you forget that there is some good writing to it. But dude, when those characters are like powering up and like coming back from the brink, I don't know. I still don't think I've seen too many other animes that get me quite as jacked up as that. And I remember as a kid, like thinking it might have given me anger problems a little bit because I remember being like, if I just flex and get really angry, like, oh, like it might have been a problem
Yeah.
that I still overcome. But yeah, they have to. They have to do that.
Right.
Watch some of those AMVs to get hyped up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There's not a lot that does it quite the same. You know,
Right.
I really recommend Yu Yu Hakusho, if you're a Dragon Ball fan.
Okay.
I think it's really good. It's 4 seasons, so it's compact. It's not a thing that goes on
Okay.
forever. And it's pretty
Sure.
consistent. Um but I don't see many. It never caught on like Dragon Ball did,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. So, yeah. I really watching this though, it still makes me upset that what they did to Gohan. I just
I
Gohan
know.
had
I
such,
know.
I mean, clearly such potential, and I think some of the best moments in the show are when everybody else pulls their own weight in some way. I
Yeah.
understand that Goku always comes to save the day most of the time, but like there are those times when he doesn't, and those are the best.
I totally agree. And I wish they would go into that more. I forget what the entirety of the backstory is. I thought I remembered when we were younger reading that like the Cell arc was supposed to be the coup de grace. That was supposed to be the end of it, right? And it was supposed to be the end of the Goku storyline, right? That the concept was, Gohan has surpassed, he is elevated
Mm-hmm.
beyond their capabilities because of his latent potential. Um, and that to me would have been good. I was never a big fan of the Boo arc. Like it just kind of felt like, ugh. Um, right up until the end again, Gohan gets his time to shine with that. And then yeah, the whole idea that he, abandoned all that to focus on his studies. Like I get that you want him to be smart, but he can do both.
Right.
And he should. And he's even a cooler character for now having done both. Um, in the Tournament of Power, it was kind of cool to see that he had some value. He doesn't have to be the hero for all of them, but I like that they brought back the relationship with him and Piccolo and how they are more strategically focused, right? It's not just about raw power for those two, which is really cool to see. And it looks like in the new Android movie that's coming out, they're refocusing Dragon Ball Superhero. They're refocusing on Gohan again. So maybe they're trying to correct some of that. Vegeta's the other one. Vegeta is the other one where it's like he's just
always shit
criminally
on.
undermined. Yeah. And probably has the best character arc. Short of Piccolo.
Yeah, I mean, I love Vegeta for sure, but does get hard to see him always like he's the prince of Vegeta or whatever, or of you know, so he it feels beneath him to be trying to claw so desperately to overtake Goku. You know, I like the rivalry, but at some points it gets to be too desperate feeling.
It does, but Vegeta is also the character in the show that represents hard work, right? So Gohan has this natural latent potential. He gets angry and shit goes haywire and he defeats everything, right? He's done that since he was tiny. Goku, fine. I mean, he takes really well to teaching, right? But he learns things just overnight, and he's good at like having a master. Like that's what he represents, right? Is the master apprentice thing. He learns from them, he applies it. He's always had that. Vegeta has always been, you know, cool in a way that he's like self-taught. He makes the road harder for himself, for sure, but he is the hard work pays off character, and that part is cool.
Yeah. No. But you just know there's always those moments when he like maybe gets a stage above Goku. You know it's gonna last for that long. It's just like
you get 4 panels of him being better.
Yeah. So that's too bad. But yeah, I agree. He has probably one of the better character arcs. And then when he, you know, going all the way from villain, gonna destroy the Earth to, you know, helping to me it's still the best of the Dragon Ball Z series is the Namek arc with Frieza, where you have Vegeta reluctantly needing to fight with Gohan and Krillin.
Yes.
Because they're enemies at this point, and those kids are terrified of Vegeta, but Vegeta is terrified of Frieza. And so it's like, if we're going to have any chance of making it out of here not in pieces, we have to do this together in some way. And that's the beginning to me of the shift for that character. And I think that's still some of the best.
I totally agree. And I think Dragon Ball agrees with you because they repeat that situation and that storyline over and over. Like even to this day, like then you had it in the Buu saga as well, right? Where he and Goku had to fuse in order to escape from inside of Buu. They've had it in the Moro arc. They've had it in Tournament of Power even. It's like, we have to do this. We have to work together to do this. And Vegeta's like, I will not. It's like, man, come on. You're like buddies now at this point.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a problem. But they still try and get that in there.
Yep. Okay, well, we are here to talk actually about Demon Slayer. So we gave everybody a warm up there. It's you know, if you're here and you haven't seen Demon Slayer, I've had a chance to jump ship here. We're not going to be talking about the manga. It's just going to be the anime that is currently available. So we've had season 1, the movie, which they turned into like a season kind of, and then
is that a common thing, by the way? I'm sorry to derail you already.
No, I mean, I think it's to me it's usually the other way around. You know, you have a season of something and it's compressed into an OVA, you know, or into a movie or something like that. I feel like that's more common than going in reverse. Here's the movie, now let's break it up.
Yeah.
But did you watch Which I know I've asked you before. What did you watch between that, the movie or the series or?
So I watched the first season, and then I watched the movie in its entirety, and then with the second season, I honestly I thought I was doing something wrong. Like I started it, and it was the movie, and I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense. So I ended up skipping forward past that. So I apparently did myself a little bit of a disservice because I guess there's some cool sequences that they added as part of the entertainment district to the movie line storyline itself. But yeah, I picked it up after, so I just started watching the episodes after the Flame
Same
Hashira.
Hashira. Yeah, what the Rengoku.
Yes,
Yes.
awesome character by the way.
Yeah, we used to talk about him a little bit because he's even though not particularly relevant, I guess, in this latest season, kind of character motivating in a way. You know, like he's had an impact on Tanjiro, um, but yeah, it's sad how short lived it
Yeah,
was.
and that seems like that's going to be a theme with these Hashiros. I mean, technically, you've got to make space for three new ones, right? At
Mhm.
minimum. So I get that. But yeah, his character was excellent, and we're good with spoilers, right? And we can jump
Yeah, I
around.
mean, yeah,
I
spoilers.
mean,
I should have I'll have to bring in the graphic that we use in the regular podcast, but it's in the title
okay.
for Demon Slayer. So
I liked his impact was definitely felt throughout Entertainment District. You had um, Tanjiro going back to the village where Rengoku was from and seeing his father and his brother and what that relationship looked like. I mean, you had a lot of character growth with his father, and I'm starting to wonder if he's going to return to the Demon Slayer
mm,
Corps um, and take his place. I'm not sure because his brother doesn't seem quite there yet, right? But the
right.
letter that his father was writing, the apologetic letter that his father was writing at the end seemed to be a big deal. So either he's going to come back, or my prediction is that Tanjiro is going to take the place of the fire breathing with his sun breathing,
Okay.
which will be molded with the water breathing, which is
Right.
tight as hell. Maybe it'll be steam breathing. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's it's pretty common in a story, I guess, to have you reach some point where the hero faces, such a setback, like are you going to go forward kind of thing, and his death was a big impact on him. But at the same time, I definitely was surprised. Um, but I think it's valuable to the integrity of the show and to Tanjiro that we have someone that he can look up to so much, that seems so powerful, so cool, and even he can't escape with his life from one of these like upper six. So
right.
I think yeah, it really had an impact.
Yeah, it wasn't done just for shock value.
Hmm.
There's value to that loss, and they carried that through, which is good. Especially if they're gonna follow that path. If each season or each arc is going to be a different Hashira, and how the boys learn from each of them in their diverse ways, right? I mean, you've got the three antagonists, which are very diverse in their approach to everything, and then all of the Hashira uh, basically are completely juxtaposed in many ways, which is also awesome because it highlights that there is no singular one path, right? You just have to make it work for yourself,
Right.
which is cool. But it's kind of feels like, I mean, we're only two seasons in, but
Right.
or actually technically
It's
not
really
two,
like
but
it's the
three
third.
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you
Which,
had the water guy in the first one, right? You
yep.
had
Hmm.
Goku in the second one. You have Tengen in this one. So
Yep. Yeah, no, that's true. I wonder like if, because that had me really scared. It's like, is Tengen gonna die?
yeah,
Because it seemed like, but like you say, the water guy in the beginning, obviously he's going to be. So what's his name? Let's see, Giyu.
Yes.
Tomioka. So he um, he's obviously still around and kicking. So it's not like it really was a trend that he had to die or something. But I was worried
Right.
about it.
I was too. It looks like they've kicked it, but
Hmm.
especially there at the end.
Well, one of the good things with uh, I like this character Tengen is they got rid of him without killing him because his wives wanted to settle down. They're like,
Mhm.
we're grew up in this shinobi family. We've been through all this crap for so long. Wouldn't it be nice, as they're staying on the side of a lake, to be able to just, so some great foreshadowing there. And then
Right.
clearly it was like that could be the moment where it's like, well, okay, that's never going to happen for you, because
Mhm.
it's, make it tragic. But instead we get something more happy and satisfying from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can appreciate that. I did also wonder, like, is the Demon Slayer course something that you can just choose to walk away from?
Mm-hmm.
Where they like are the demons always going to see you and hunt you down? I mean, Goku's dad is seems to be a case where you can just walk away from it. Um, but it just seems odd that the demons would let such a significant threat remain. But I hope that it does stay that way. I hope that it does work out for them where they get their little menage a trois, or no, it's even more than that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This is a Japanese theme podcast. I don't know French. Uh yeah.
Yeah,
Un,
you
deux,
got to help me out
trois.
on that.
Yeah, that's all I can do. Un, deux, trois. One, two, three. I don't know the words.
Yeah.
So, um, yep. Um, yeah, it's definitely not like other organizations or in other shows too, where even just the organization themselves is like, nope, you don't get to just leave. Like that's not part of the deal. Like you die in this
Right.
role. So I guess that's good. But he is maimed now. He is he is
That's
armless.
true, but that just sounds like an opportunity to have him have a flashy upgrade then.
Yeah,
You know?
that's true. Yeah.
Um, what did you think about him as a character
Hmm.
in this season? What were your thoughts?
Um. Well, with I guess right now I've had a difficulty with all the Hashira not getting to know them well enough.
Okay.
Like they show up, and especially Rengoku, he's there in the movie, and then he's gone. And Tengen, I I'm happy we got, I feel like, a little more of his past or whatever, but
Mhm.
he's thrust upon us like, who is this guy? And I don't know, I just like the design of him so much. I like the
Mhm.
kind of fun nature of him. I like the unique backstory, the fact that he has the three wives and he just goes with this. I don't know, he's a fun character that also seems threatening. So
Mhm.
um I don't know if he's, you know, is he the most interesting character? I don't know, maybe not, but I just think he's really cool.
Sure.
I think that's enough for.
Yeah. Well, especially if it's going to be short lived, make them cool.
Mhm.
And this is the thing that impresses me about this show, right? Is to be perfectly frank, I kind of went into this show thinking, dude, I just want to see some sick action. Um, and it does a really good job of that. But what surprises me with it is how much or how well they can make you like a character in such a short time. Like the fact that you want to know more about Ren Goku is a testament to the character building that they did in such a short time, right? And then they've carried it on a little bit, his story on a little bit, in this season, even without him being there. They still tell you quite a lot about him, which I think makes you like him even more. Um, but with this guy, with Tengen, and I apologize in advance if I not if when I butcher people's names. With him, I remember in the first season, we got when they made it to the Demon Slayer core headquarters or
Yeah,
whatever,
right.
and you got introduced to all of these different Hashira, right? This guy in particular was one I was like, dude, that he is obnoxious. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
hate him. Like, I want him to go away so much. And then he kept saying flashy, and I'm like, that is just obnoxious. Stop it. And then not even toward the end of this season, like almost right away when they introduced him, I was like, all right, I like this guy. The flashy thing it grew on me like
Mm-hmm.
as just a joke, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He says it, he means it, but there's also an air of comedy to it. And then they made me like him. I went
Yep.
from thinking I was gonna hate him to them making me like him.
Well, the
Pretty
flashy
good.
thing is kind of like a live every moment to the fullest kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like this could be over, appreciate the time. That's how I take it. He's seen his whole shinobi clan. We've seen that downfall and the demise and everything in the past. So this is like, I'm gonna live my best life right now, no matter what, and I'm gonna make it happen. And then immediately showing how much, he says he has 3 wives, and I forget which one freaks out that that's not okay. Who was
Oh,
this?
it's the Lightning Kid.
Oh, is it?
Um, yeah,
Okay.
he always loses his mind about that. What is it?
Zenitsu. Yeah.
Zenitsu.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but you immediately or pretty quickly find out that he really cares about them. Like
Right.
this is not just a harem for him or something like that. Like he's out. I mean, the whole setup of this mission is, I feel terrible that I sent my wives on this mission, and now they're all gone. Like I have no contact from them, and so yeah, it's the whole thing is kind of a saving, redeem my mistake kind of thing. And yeah, I don't remember my impression of him initially, but I don't know that he honestly stood out to me. Some of the ones like
Oh, the flashy guy didn't stand out to you? I think he would cripple himself if he heard that.
I see what you're saying, but like there's the Stone Hashira guy that's always
Yeah.
crying. He stood
Nah,
out,
not looking forward to
and then
him.
the mean one with the scars. I'm
Yep.
looking at his name. And the snake guy. They really all stood out, and the one trying to be nice. So I just don't remember
Yep.
my first impressions of him. But you're right,
Okay.
he'd be very upset.
Yes. Yes, he
So.
would.
Um,
Um,
I love his swords. Swords are
so
awesome.
cool. They are.
Oh, and the big reveal with him, honestly. So he's the sound Hashira. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why? And then all of a sudden, at the end, it's like, I've completed my piece. Like, he's like, turn the enemy's attacks into a melody and then so he can just see it. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's cool now. Because I
Yeah.
don't feel like they spend enough time on that. It's not as visually aware as obviously if you're the flame Hashira or something like that. That makes
Yeah. There's one scene, right, when all the ribbons are coming at him, where exactly like you said, where he's seeing the melody of the movement of the ribbons, and that's how he breaks it down. But yeah, you're right. We needed more of that. It would have been cool to see more of that. They leaned really heavy into the flashy thing, which is that a translation thing? Because to your point, flashy doesn't necessarily mean flashy in the way that they describe it, but um, and
yeah. I wonder if it's more flamboyant is more
yes,
literal,
yeah,
because that would, yeah. I know there was some criticism of just even calling this the entertainment district arc. I guess some people were like, that's not really descriptive. It's the red light district. But like to make
yeah.
it seem a little more family friendly, that's not called that. So I don't know if that has anything.
You might be right. I mean, I don't mind that aspect of it. I don't need it so on the nose, to call it the red light district. Like they showed us that. They showed
Right.
us exactly what it was. I don't need to be told because I get it. Um, so yeah, it still would have been cool to see more of his musical part of it. I mean, to me, it is like Tanjiro's the string, the thread.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
he always sees. He has to cut the thread.
Mm-hmm.
That is what Tengen's sound seems to be to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have been interesting to see him play an instrument, or like they do
Mhm.
some sound manipulation when he's twirling his swords or something different, that we got a better sense of that. Because I'm thinking
Right.
of uh, Jujutsu Kaisen, which is this other show I've been really into, and there's this guy in there that only he like uses his magical cursed energy or whatever through his voice, and so he only
Oh.
speaks in rice ball ingredients to like keep it in check, because his
Okay.
words can be very dangerous. So then
I
all of a
see.
sudden he'll like unzip this kind of like collar, like high turtleneck thing he has on to say something. He'll say like stop, and you kind of get this auditory effect that just sort of has a great impact. He says stop, and it just like you feel the weight of it,
Sure.
and then someone's like immobilized. And so it could have been nice to have something sound related like that, because the sound in this show and the music is really well done. I think that
Mhm.
it's I really cranked it up in some situations, and it's really good. So it would have been nice to have something, because the sound can
Right.
have such an impact, and so it's kind of a wasted opportunity here. It's like, do you remember episode 2 of Star Wars, Attack of the Clones or whatever?
I mean,
Not
I've
well.
seen it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you start describing what you're
There.
going for. Maybe I'll pick it
So
up.
Boba Fett is, well, Jango Fett at this point, with Boba Fett in it, is flying and chasing Obi-Wan through like asteroids, and he's
Okay.
dropping these bombs, these like mines or whatever, and they drop, and then they cut all the audio in the movie, and then there's this big reverberating slicing thing that cuts open the rocks and stuff, and it's like has a lot of punch to it. We
Hmm.
need something like that for Tengen.
That would have been cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Absolutely.
Redo this season, make it.
I'd take another crack at it. I mean, I enjoyed it enough where I'd watch it again
Mm-hmm.
with little twists.
Yeah.
No.
So I know you'd said before that like you thought that this was maybe a little too much one battle. Do you feel like
Yeah.
that's how,
So I liked the season. Overall, we got done with it, and I wasn't dissatisfied, but I was kind of like, huh, the whole thing was the battle, and I'm not sure. I can't quite describe why that felt wrong to me, because I remember like, okay, Dragon Ball, right? For instance, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. You'll watch the abridged version of it to skip through all the other stuff so that you just see the cool fight
mm-hmm.
sequence. I remember like when the classic moment when Goku is first setting up the Spirit Bomb. And it was like it felt like 4 episodes of just him standing there drawing in energy, and you're like, can you just get to it? And this whole season felt like them just getting to it.
Right.
And so it's what I thought I should have wanted,
Okay.
but then at the end I was like, weird. It just felt weird.
Mm-hmm.
The first season there was so much character development as he's going through his training and whatnot. This one had like a couple of scenes with them training, and
Mm-hmm.
all of the character development basically felt like it was happening mid-battle. I guess it just kind of felt cut short, and then at the end they try and tie it all into some emotional weight, right?
Yep.
I don't know. Yes, I feel that way. I don't know if I should. I don't know if it's warranted.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, I mean, well, it's because I think as you're talking, I think it feels like this season was cut as a movie, because I remember watching it week to week. I'm like, oh my god, it just goes so fast. When if you take out the opening and the ending and the little like shtick they do at the end or whatever little fun thing,
Yeah.
there's not much there left,
It's like,
and it's just
like
so
20 minutes.
yeah. And so if you just had this as like a 2-hour film, I feel like it would flow really well because we get right
Yeah.
into it where we have the Sawan Hashida, I need to find my wives. They've gone missing. You guys are going to tag along. Fine. I'm going to make use of you. Go in here, investigate. You get the little bit of investigation. What is happening here? We don't know. They each get to use their own abilities in a way to find out. And then shit hits the fan, and this amazing battle that culminates, and we're done. I think that would be pretty epic, really. As a
Yeah.
season, yeah, it feels fast. I don't think I care. But it kind of would be that thing where if they did the 2-hour movie, and then they did like with with Rengoku, and they then added to it, made it into a season, and added in more context and more training and stuff or whatever. I don't know. I I guess I'm happy with the way it is, but I would like to see that cut of just being able to plow through it because it all feels like it should be consumed that way. It should be
And
consumed back to back to back to back.
that's how I ended up doing it, short of the last episode. Right? That was the
Mm-hmm.
only one that I had to wait for because I had waited long enough. Um, and even even doing it that way, the little breaks,
Mm-hmm.
in each episode. And dude, they have got to stop foreshadowing what's going to happen in the upcoming episodes at the end of the current
Mm.
one. I despise that. It just takes crap away for me. Um, like they don't do it in perfect order, but like I knew that Zenitsu was going to be, blitzing through, cutting through the demon's ribbons and shit, and like royally effing her up before it even happened.
Right.
Because they showed a little preview of it. And I'm like, why? I don't need that.
Yep.
Stop doing that. They did it in the first season too, and it pissed me off then too. But
I
even
agree.
watching it back to back, it still just felt really short. It felt really fast paced. But then when I think back on it, there was plenty of character development for Tengen. Like I feel like I know who he is
Yep.
in a good
Mm-hmm.
way. Not a lot of ton of character development for his wives, although I don't think that's the purpose that they served. There was just enough. Um, but I mean, Inosuke. Oh God, I'm butchering his
Inosuke.
name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Inosuke. Yeah, that dude. Well, as you know, he's like my spirit animal. So I always want more of him. Always 100%. And we didn't get a ton of him.
Yep.
It was interesting to see him doing his version of reconnaissance and
Mm-hmm.
how he was still brash about it. Like eventually he's like, "No, done with this. Running through walls." Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that was
I,
awesome.
yeah. I, yeah. That's the thing. Like because yes, it seems short. It was one big battle, but they did splice in all those little backstory moments, and I think in a nice way that we didn't feel bogged down. We didn't do like a lot of shows do where waiting for the next week's episode. It comes out and it's all backstory.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, they jump back to present time, the situation we're dealing with. They didn't do that. They didn't waste our time in that way or like make us sit through something. It was just little pieces and enough to add depth to everybody. And I loved seeing Inosuke slithering through underground. Yeah, of course I'll pop all my bones out of their joints here and just
Right.
be a worm. And I thought that was great. And
It felt
the playing up
claustrophobic in
his
that
like
moment.
beautiful face,
Yeah.
so he can just pass just fine as a girl
Mhm.
in this or whatever because he's so pretty. And I like all those things.
Yep.
But let's see what else. So yeah, I guess the conclusion with that, I felt I would rather have this than something that either A took me out of what the present time, what's happening for a full episode, or B, bogging it down with a bunch of unnecessary stuff. You know, mentioning Dragon Ball is the perfect thing. We never wasted time powering up, or anything like that. We never had a side episode about the Great Saiyaman. We never had those things. Or in Bleach, they just have the side episode to talk about Cone, like a little side adventure. We never had that, and I can't complain about that because anime does that a lot. They do that deviating side story thing. So,
well, yeah, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's just it's a formula that worked well and they executed well on it, but it was just so abnormal to me that, it's taking me a second to kind of catch up. Like, what the hell did I just watch? But I liked it. So,
let's see. What else we have? Any other characters is anything we want to say about? Oh yeah, you wanted to talk about Nezuko.
Yeah, I was just gonna go into that. Like, how old are you? Familiar? How old are all these characters?
No, it's best not to ask that question ever in anime. Just
I'm learning that.
Okay, so age physically 12, chronologically 14. So I suppose kind of stopping physically aging when she turned into a demon.
Right, that's what demons do. Yep. How old do you think Tengen is?
Oh, he's probably younger than I imagine. I would think of him as like 30.
That's what I had pegged as well.
He is 23.
Yes, he's 23. So I'm saying all this with you, despite your advice to not look into it. Because, I had most of these people as 5 to 10 years older than they actually are, right? And so then when Nezuko goes full demon, which, by the way, that whole thing was sick as hell. I love every time she gets the opportunity to like shine, as brief as it is, and sometimes it can feel like total plot armor. Doesn't matter, still cool as hell.
Mm-hmm.
But when she went like full demon style and like was suddenly like busty and like big hips, long legs, strong legs and shit, and I'm like, what the hell did I miss? I thought this was a little girl. Like, wait, what? And it threw me the whole time. It was distracting as shit. Because I'm like, I mean, it didn't pull me away from the interaction. It was still cool to see her powers, evolving.
But you were grappling with how you were feeling inside.
Yeah, man. That culture was getting to me. So I'm like, I just don't get it. What do you think about her evolution there?
Well, I thought it was funny that you brought it up pre-show, because when the episode aired, there was some quote-unquote controversy online, because there's this kind of new thing where people that don't really watch anime are aware that it's there. It's like an adjacent subculture to what they, whatever. And so they're like,
on Netflix.
What's that?
Is that because it's on Netflix?
I don't know. I think it's just because people hang out on Twitter too long, and then they see other stuff, and they're like, there's this whole thing going on right now in the West where you'll see journalists and people on Twitter get really uncomfortable at the sight of women's boobs or anything. It's just like, there's been game reviews that are like, I can't enjoy this because they're dudes too. I can't enjoy this because I'm too uncomfortable, like this
bullshit.
It's really odd. So there was a big controversy, and because they keep getting random points, people get attacked now because, yes, if you look at the age, a lot of these girls and kids they're kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the same people will sit and preach about us not imposing our culture on others.
Yes.
And we're ready now to like do the exact thing and shame someone else's culture for how we view it through ours. It's really hypocritical. It doesn't ring true. And like, again, if boobs make you very uncomfortable, just don't watch it, or there's something else for you, you know?
For sure. But okay, I'll play devil's advocate with you for a little bit.
Okay.
Here, right?
Yep.
Because and I haven't seen any of these comments or anything like that. First of all, in video games, shut your mouth. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you knew what you were getting when you turned the video game on. You knew who was making it. Like, that's part of it. And in that respect, I totally agree with you. In this case, in this situation, you just watched a 12-year-old girl grow giant tits. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sorry. That part threw me off. So I can understand a bit of where they're coming from on that, because you are very closely bordering a line that I don't think is necessarily okay in any culture, which, you know, is into that child arena, right? And so in this case, I can see that. My wife watches Bridgerton a bunch, and there's this other one that's called with oh gosh, it's not Zoe Day, Zendaya,
Okay.
Euphoria.
Oh,
There's this thing of recent shows where they're showing like teenagers, like high school and younger, having sex on screen and things like that, and that's drawing a border for me. I'm just, you know what, it just doesn't need to be there, in my opinion, on that. And I'm not trying to push my culture onto somebody else. I'm just saying, at the child level, just let that go. I had sex in high school, like most people do. I get it. That doesn't mean that I need to be a 33-year-old dude watching it.
Right.
And so with this particular case, that's why it feels off to me, because you don't hear anybody, at least I don't, I'm guessing nobody's saying anything about his 3 wives, which are all stacked and super hot, like crazy hot. Like, I don't know. Is there anything about that? Super low cut dresses and just smoke shows?
I don't know. As far as I know, it hasn't been reached the level of anyone considering a controversy that I remember.
Okay. And see, to me, that part is fine. It was just this. Now, hold on. I'll give you a chance to rebut with that, because, like I said, I was playing devil's advocate.
Sure, yeah.
I don't actually have a problem with this show and how they execute it. But
I think that there is a distinction as well between real life actors and animation. So I think that there's probably a fun like psychological breakdown of maybe why this is the case or why this would be okay or something.
Sure.
But I feel like if you're 10 and watching this, these people feel like they're right around your age. I feel like if you're 15, you're watching this and they feel like they're right around your age. And you're 25 and you're watching this and you kind of see them around your age. There's this thing where when they're animated and it's a larger than life, you know, most anime in a way is not necessarily a caricature of life, but in some way it's an artistic expression of a representation of real life. It's not real life. And so you can get away with a lot of things, both in terms of what is believable, in like literally execution wise, like what a human body can withstand. And it's kind of why, like, in anime, I will give a lot of things a pass, because again, it's an artistic representation of a situation in life, versus when it's the Black Widow movie and I'm seeing real people. I very well understand real people and what they're capable of, and what I'm seeing is not possible. So there's
following 4 stories to your bouncing off everything and being all right.
Yes. John Wick, does it in the end of the one, like there's these things that, okay, you're grounding this already because it's real actors. And then whatever the world you're creating around it is close enough to reality. So when you go and just break that, I don't believe it anymore. But when you have animation that is, it's like if you draw a self-portrait, you don't have to draw yourself exactly as yourself. It doesn't have to be a still life. It can be very different. And that's what anime is. So I just think that that's part of the benefit of animation and art is you're able to express things that elicit emotional reactions that even something that's more true to life might not be able to, because you can get away with more fantastical things. We even have this in writing. Like if you have a romance novel and you read lines of dialogue between characters, and then you go and have actors say those same lines out loud, you'll probably just laugh at them. Because in our head, in the fantasy that is in our head, that can romanticize things, it can make it work like dream world, you can get away with a lot. But as soon as you're like, no, this person actually has to say this and I need to see it, it all of a sudden shocks it into reality, and it's like, no, that wouldn't be said. That's not believable. Is
that's a very good point. Yeah, that is a good point, that you allow things to pass in the moment in your own head. I mean, kudos to you for picking such exemplary literary examples as romance novels. Fantastic. But your point is well made. I wasn't following you up until that end there. So I think I hear what you're saying, but in this one, did I lose you?
Nope.
Okay. In this one, they have set up a standard, right? So you're 2 seasons in now. You've got established ages, established personalities. And so if somebody does something outside of that norm, it is going to throw you off because you've already set up your world now. And I get your point. Animation gives you that ability to make things more fantastical than they would normally be. His 3 wives are all really well endowed, right? And yet they're also ninjas.
Yep.
That is not going to be very common. Look at a gymnast, right?
Right.
That is peak female physicality, and it changes the way that you grow and develop. But, we'll look past that. It's at least established in this. This is established that she's a 12-year-old girl, right? And she was turned into a demon at 12, so she's still 12. So that is why it was super jarring to be like, whoa.
I get it. I get what you're saying.
But she's a demon. That's the part that makes it okay. So, like, I think if you sat somebody in front of this, a reviewer in front of this, and you're like, hey, this is a 12-year-old girl and watch what happens next, and that's all the context you gave them, right? They would lose it and they'd be totally justified. But they circle it back and they have established in this universe that demons, and it's not an uncommon trait that demons tend to be like these sexual entities, right? The debauchery, right? That
like a
comes
vampire.
along with it. Yes. So that makes sense. And to see her, she is unleashing more of her demon-esque powers and capabilities. It makes sense that her physical form shifts into something you would think of more like a succubus, right? Mm-hmm. That all makes sense. And then when she calms down and goes back to being that normal 12-year-old girl, that ties it into a really nice bow and makes it all perfectly acceptable if you pay attention and watch through the whole thing. If you just look at one scene, I can understand your anger.
The Japanese, particularly in anime, so the way I've seemed to take a lot of this is, Japanese society has a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of socially self-enforced restrictions. And it's, I don't know if I've told you this before, but there is stories of kids that they're Japanese, they're born there, they go to school, but their hair is a little more brown. It's not black.
Okay.
The school makes them dye it black. And so you can see part of the thing, like why when you watch anime with kids, they all have crazy colored hair. All the ones that matter very often,
Yeah.
you know. It's constantly the art form is an outlet for all the kinds of things, you know. There's often like a lot of stuff against authority, you know, in a lot of
Yeah.
these animes and stuff like that. It's a breaking free of the shackles of real life and society. And so these are fantasy power trips, you know, power fantasy kind of things in a lot of senses. And they also like to play with taboos a lot. You know, there was a an anime we just watched last night. I watched the newest episode of it. It's called um, My Dress Up Darling. It's very funny. They definitely have their share of like, you know, panty shots and different stuff or whatever in there. But
Gotcha.
there's a scene where someone, of course, because this happens all the time, accidentally walks in on someone in the like bathroom shower area or whatever. The girl's naked. We don't
Okay.
know how old she is, but she falls down like completely naked, legs open and stuff, and everything's blocked by the guy standing there, you know, whatever. But
Sure.
he's in his head, he's like, "Oh crap, it's a kid." And so
Oh.
we're seeing this young girl that he's like, "Oh my god, you know, this it's a kid."
Uh-huh.
Come a little bit later. So, firstly, if you're sitting there like, okay, well, they're drawing this nude girl that is being said as a kid. And then a couple scenes later, where he finds out she's actually a year older than he is. She just looks very young. So it's like,
Okay.
okay, so this person actually is a high schooler.
Mhm.
And, you know, but again, like you watch all these shows and they're almost all high schoolers. Like someone's getting
Right.
old if they're in their 20s, you know, or something like
Right.
that, you know?
Well, that's why Tengen's age threw me off so much because they seem to refer to him as such like an. They almost refer to him like an elder, right?
Hmm.
He's 23.
Yep. Well, and it's
Yeah, you're
part of
absolutely right.
it's very interesting because a part of what's odd is that these shows, this is technically shonen. So I forget the exact age bracket, but it's designed for like 12 to 17-year olds. Like it's kind of the target demographic,
Okay.
you know? And then some of
Okay.
it's like, well, okay, but 40-year-old people watch this too, you know? Well, but that's okay. Star Wars, the target demographic, I mean, really the way it's set up is like kids, you know? It's very kid
Yep.
friendly. But people that are 60 like it because it's accessible. Just because something is designed for within mind, kind of family friendly, doesn't mean someone else. But at the same time, a lot of times this anime that's designed for it's not particularly family friendly. If I was 15, there are definitely some shonen anime that I would feel uncomfortable watching with my parents, you know?
Sure.
So it is weird how the age thing goes, how like what's appropriate, what's not. And that's why like I just don't ask age. I age it up to myself or age it down appropriately, you know, whatever. It
Sure.
doesn't it's like reading a book. When I read the Harry Potter books, they were exactly my age in my head. I didn't care if
Yeah.
it was a couple years difference.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And you make good points. Again, I didn't have an actual problem with it executed
Mhm.
on this show, but the characterization that you've given it in the background, it should make it easier for anyone to swallow, I guess. Looking at it through a certain lens. And to your point, I mean, the reason the 60-year-old guy is still in love with Star Wars, right, or something along those lines, is because we were all those kids at that age, and I think it's a stupid concept that you need to grow out of something that you were enamored with as a kid. You know,
Mhm.
that's such a dumb way to push somebody down and just kill their spirit, right? You don't say that about cars, and yet most people who fall in love with cars at 6, 7 years old. My son loves cars because I force him to, because I drag him out to the racetrack all the time, but he does. But, you know, when I'm 34 years old and still like cars, nobody gives me crap for that. When I'm 60 years old and still like cars, nobody gives me crap for that. So why is it that we pick and choose certain things, right?
Mhm.
You know, you love Dragon Ball as a kid. there's a nostalgia to it. You still enjoy it. There's no reason to stop enjoying it. That is something that I think, I don't know if it's just Western culture or if it's just European culture in general, but I feel like that's where that happens a lot. Is like, it's time to grow out of that.
Yeah.
Why? It's not stifling me from going about and being a productive member of society. It's not stopping me from going to work and being a professional. It's something that I enjoy outside of it now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really big topic because I think it's multifaceted. I think that on one hand, we're sort of the first generation where the cool kids in school could be into a wide range of things. You could potentially
Yeah.
be a band student and like Star Wars, play video games, be in sports. You could do all these things potentially, and it wasn't like that defined whether you were cool or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's kind of like now how we see so many different styles or so many different things. It's okay to be into nerdy things now. Look
Yeah.
at the superhero movies. They're the biggest things.
Yeah.
That did not used to be the case ever. If you were into Lord of the Rings and D&D, you were a total dork.
Right.
You'd be
By
made fun
default.
of, right, by default. So like that was a thing that is for kids, for dorks, that you should grow up and grow out of, because then you have the real world to contend with. And in reality, for a lot of years, we didn't have the cushy existence we have now. So you kind of did like, hey, you're 16, go get working. You've already been working on the family farm since you're 8. Now it's time that you go and do this. And then by the time you're 8, 17 or 20, you're going to be married and have kids on the way. And like your entire existence was work and kids. And there's a lot less time for like frivolity. And we're in a state now where things are so easy and you can stay in your parents' healthcare until you're 25 or 30 or whatever it is. And so, yeah, now it's like we are almost encouraged to be big children for a long time.
That's an interesting point. It certainly is, like you said, easier to accept that, to allow it. But I don't know that it was ever necessary. I mean, okay, so the one thing is that it's more easily accessible, right? Now you can work all day, right? You could work from 9 in the morning, 10 o'clock at night. You can work from 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. You're still gonna have a bit of time to unwind. 30 minutes, pop on Netflix and watch your show, right? That's something that was not available in the past, for sure. Um, but at the same time, even in the past, I think what people needed to be taught was moderation, right? It's not that. So you need to go get a job at a younger age, for sure. But you can still teach somebody that they can enjoy what they enjoy whilst being a productive member of society. You just have to teach them moderation. No, you cannot play Dungeons and Dragons for 14 hours on Saturday because you have to work. But, you could play for an hour, for 2 hours, right? And then go to work. It's just a different approach to it that I don't think people maybe had mastered moderation. Maybe they didn't have the convenience to learn to master moderation in certain things, and so that's where that mentality came from. I don't know.
I think it's just so much easier now for people to be able to get by with essentially addiction to something, whatever. Like I can be on World of Warcraft 12 hours a day, doesn't matter, because I'll either stay at my parents' house and it's fine, they'll support me and never kick me out, and it'll be all right. My mom will still bring me sandwiches downstairs, or I can move out to someplace else and get so much like assistance from the social pot of things that I can like kind of limp on just fine here doing my what. It's just, it didn't used to be an option to exist that way. Like, I think a standard as a parent would be like, no, you're gone, you're out, like, make it on your, go survive now. And, or on the reverse, like, if you are out there, you kind of don't have the choice to not work. And it was also culturally seen as a, a negative or a disgraceful thing that you didn't have a job, that you didn't work consistently. You were a loser then. Whereas now I feel like there's a cultural shift where parents are okay letting their kids, suck from their teat for a really long time. And then also there's not the same cultural pressure to like have a job and make something yourself. So it allows for these things that interfere with what would be regular productive life to be able to take hold when they wouldn't have before.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I mean,
I
I
feel
I,
like
I get
it
what you're
has.
saying too. I'm just like,
Sure, sure. No, of course. I don't think you're undermining. We're just having a discussion on it. What I can't figure out is, is it just is it it's probably a combination of the way that life has changed, right? We live in a easier time than ever before, despite, whatever I'm sure that there are still plenty of shortcomings. There are still bad things that happen to good people that don't deserve it, for sure. And life can still be hard for people, but it is hard in a different way, right, than it was before. And when you look at the big picture, the standard of living is better than it ever had been before. And so that does change the way that people look at things. That changes the way people raise their kids. It changes the mentality, the culture, for sure. So yeah, Demon Slayer. Huh?
yeah.
What do you think of like her transformation of Nezuko's transformation? Then, I think it's cool as hell that they show the demon side, because the opponents then that they were fighting against were also relatively young when they were turned.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is you don't question it, right? Because you didn't see them that way. But it's pretty well said that here, and the male demons tend to be a little bit more of a grotesque figure, with the exception of the main guy. Seems to be able to control his appearance much more. Well, maybe not much more. They all seem to be able to control their appearance, but when the demon side comes out, it is sexualized for the women, for sure. In a fun way. The guys are more all over the place in their looks and feel. But I thought it's a cool way to show her true demon power coming out. It's a very effective way to do it.
We need evolutions for each character, and so I think it was time. It was appropriate time, so she doesn't feel like she's left behind. So the Nezuko can like keep up in a way, and we see an evolution here, because we want to see that with everyone else as well. We see that at first with Zenitsu, where okay, he just complains and whines a lot or whatever, and then obviously he has something else like in him or whatever that is able to take over. Tanjiro keeps going from one, at first water breathing, and then you get fire breathing, and what are we gonna get now? So we kind of keep. So I thought it was a great reveal, a really fun moment that we see Nezuko not getting left behind. She's stepping up to the plate to the increased threat that they're facing.
And is that a thing? So she's got that unique characteristic, right, where she hasn't devoured any people, but she is still growing in power. Like, they kind of go out of their way to say that this is not something that should be happening. Right? She shouldn't be able to regenerate her limbs that quickly. She shouldn't be able to do demon blood magic like she does, which, I mean, a lot of her things already feel like plot armor. The demon blood magic kind of ticked me off in how it burned away the poisons. But like, why? When do you think they'll start to tell us what is different about her that is allowing her to continue to evolve her
Yeah.
demonic powers.
I mean, does it have to be more than like um the the connection between her and Tanjiro? Like that familial bond that's still so strong with them. I mean, or are you looking like there needs to be a genetic difference or a historical difference? I mean, obviously we have something with their father that he was
Mhm.
doing like the fire breathing kind of
Sun breathing.
dance. Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
it's like, but then where does that come from? Like, does it have to be a familial lineage kind of thing, do you think, to be satisfying? Or can it be like the strength of their bond and resolve with one another? Because this is a very unique situation where you have a
Right.
human and a demon that are brother and sister, and they have managed to not kill each other, you know?
Yeah. Um, Frankly, I would probably accept any explanation. I don't think it has to be a specific, logical explanation. I'm just wondering, are they going to, or are they just going to be like, this is just how it is?
Mm-hmm.
They kind of went into it a little bit to your point with this season, where the demon was like a reflection of um, Tanjiro and Nezuko. Um, you know, they even kind of came right out and said it, like, are those two what we could have been like?
Hmm.
You know, which is a cool way to go about. I think that makes them a very good villain or a very good demon, very good character. To You kind of have that with all the Marvel movies too. You always have to have the reverse side, Iron Man, and then the whatever reverse Iron Spider-Man, Venom, and all
Mm-hmm.
this kind of thing. You always do that. This was a really good way to do it, I think. But I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever the explanation may be, I'll probably accept it just fine. But when something is out of the norm like that, how long does it get to be out of the norm without you telling me even a terrible reason?
Sure. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean,
No,
maybe this
it's.
show won't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested because a lot of there's a lot of manga written that there's maybe answers to this. I don't know, but I'm not
Oh,
going to
that's a
look it
good
up.
point.
I'm going to keep,
Yeah.
because it's kind of one of those things where when they decide to write, I hope that sometimes the anime is going to be more thought out because then it's based on a manga. So it's like, well, it's already done, so you understand what that is. But I think the manga is still coming out for Demon Slayer, so
Okay.
hopefully they've thought of this and will
How,
give us something.
you know how many chapters there are? I'm curious. I have a theory that each season is going to be a different Hashira, but I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if that formula runs out quick or if they can keep it well entertaining. So, do you know if that's the case with the manga, or
Let's see if we can see how many.
I think there's 12 of them, right?
Let's see. Well, right now I see a Demon Slayer Volume 21.
Okay.
Um, full list at Barnes and Noble. I can just check it that way. Um, let's see. Books in order. Da. Wow, that's not in order. Oh, maybe it's looping here. 14, 15. Well, that shows 15. It's 12, but here's 17, 18, 19, 21. 20, volume 21 came out April 6th. So it's quite a
Okay.
while ago already. 22, June 1st. So we're over 20.
Okay.
23. Um, yeah, it looks like maybe 23 is currently available in the United States.
Okay.
So, yeah, pretty far ahead.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good. Gives me hope.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
What did you
interesting.
think?
Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was going to switch topics. So,
Yeah, no, that's,
what did you think of the demons in this one?
I thought that the dude was annoying. Um, He was
Okay.
obnoxious, like the scratching and stuff. But I also liked how unique he was, and I did appreciate the backstory we ended up getting. Um, so I thought that was good. I lost your video. Can you still hear me? I don't think I can. We'll reconnect. Says he's still here, but
All right.
okay, there we're back. All right.
All right.
Yeah, so we're talking about the demons in this season, what
Yes.
we thought of them.
You thought that the guy was annoying.
Yeah, so we got Daki, which is the woman, and Gyutaro as the dude, the
Mm-hmm.
brother. I thought it was a neat look for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just his voice and the way he is was kind of obnoxious, but I did appreciate the backstory we got with them,
Mm-hmm.
and it, I do like that the show does this. I mean, are you getting tired of it yet? Where every major demon, we see why they became a demon, and we're given some emotional beats for that. Like, do you like that element or no?
I'm not tired of it at all.
Okay.
I enjoy it. I mean, I assume at some point we will see a demon who's just like, dude, I just want power. Like, I mean, that's kind of like what these guys were, where, they were downtrodden. They had this opportunity to not be walked all over, right? And so you can understand it. The show does a good job of at least giving you a way to understand why someone would want to go down this path, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everything is all rainbows and butterflies for people. It'll be interesting to see if we do end up having a person who's just like, yeah, like life was good, things were normal, but like this sounded really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if people can relate to that as much, but it would be an interesting challenge for the writers to take on, because I'm not tired of it yet. Um, but I suppose if we're 6 seasons in and it's just, here's another tragic backstory that led me to becoming a demon, like, okay, I get that. Like,
Mhm.
you've already convinced me that there are reasons that people would want to do this.
Right.
I'm not there yet, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm often a critic of things making everybody gray,
Mhm.
everything's got to be gray. But at the same time, for someone choosing to do this, I think that um, a lot of people aren't going to make that choice unless they're in a desperate situation. So
Mhm.
it brings a believability to it, and they've been creative with them thus far enough that it's not just like, well, I'm like Vampire Story. I'm dying of tuberculosis, so save me, or whatever. It's
Mhm.
there's I don't know. There's enough depth there that it's interesting. But I do hope we have some people that they've been vying for power or whatever, and this is the next way to achieve it.
Well, and maybe the reason that this one works is that the show isn't trying to make it gray. Like, with Thanos in the recent Marvel movies. Recent, it's been years now. But like with Thanos, they almost tried to get you to side with them, right?
Mm,
Like, yeah, I can see my side. This show's not doing this. This show is still
right.
like, no, you're a demon. You have to die. You have killed hundreds of people. Like, you're toast.
Yep.
I'm sorry you got to this point, but you're at this point, so you got to go. It's so it's not doing that. It's not trying to get you to be like, okay, what they did from this point forward was all right.
Yep.
It's just you just understand why.
Yep.
Um, and then, how powerful, like, I would like to see. So this was an upper six, right? Technically, two of them
Hmm.
were upper six. As we get to the higher peaks, what would be interesting to me is if you take a powerful person and make them a demon, will they be a more powerful demon? Like,
Mm,
these people, these two kids, first of all, they were kids.
hmm.
Second of all, they were malnourished. They were, in terrible living conditions. They were weak people, as much as that kind of sucks to say. You would look at them as weak people. Um, and then they became more powerful and they feasted on more people. What happens when you just take a well fit, good, strong human who just has a sociopathic mentality
Mm,
and then becomes a demon? Does
hmm.
that just get amplified? Like, are they even like more terrible now?
I wonder
You
if
know what I
that's what
mean?
we see with because he gets promoted and he's obviously been teased in the fight against Rengoku that we got to see him battle already. But the upper rank number three, Akaza is his name. Maybe yeah, that'd be interesting if that was the case for him or something.
Right.
But yeah, in fairness, Gyutaro as a kid did get known to be like going out threatening people, going and
True.
claiming money and stuff. So he did see that he had a knack for violence.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's a good point.
and then I think the strength of Daki was supposed to be her like mental fortitude that she'd have to go through what she did or whatever. And I don't know. And then it was yeah. But I get your point. Like you take someone that is in peak physical condition, is used to fighting all the time or something like that, or extremely intelligent. How does that affect what their demon stuff is like? Or is this more of well, this is more the strength of the blood from the head demon that is really affecting this, as opposed to individuality.
Well, there is that to some degree, but then you wouldn't have the need, if that was the case, you wouldn't have the need for all of these demons to have their own demon blood art,
Mm-hmm.
their own style, right? Her ribbons and things were definitely pulled from, the idea of like the geisha beauty, right? The belts that they wear, and
Mm-hmm.
that was her thing, is that she was so beautiful even as a child, and
Yep.
that's what led her into this shitty situation, right? So they play off of that. He's a praying mantis,
Mm-hmm.
which was super cool. I love the way that art was drawn and the way his fighting style reflected that. They have their own characteristics that seem tied to the person that they were beforehand.
Right. Yeah. Like you see the malnourished aspect looking,
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, no. I also like how they managed to do not my final form thing, but in a different sense because we
Mhm.
have the kids and I think it's Zenitsu that discovers her or whatever, and he like stands up because the young girl is getting slapped around by her. So you see her as this threat. She's very imposing. Everybody else is bowing down to her. She's very like together and
Mhm.
in charge. And then when fights start to break out, you start to see like she's still very, I'm above you, but she's being damaged. She's like taking blows. And then all of a sudden, like her brother comes out. And so instead of her like powering up herself, she
Mhm.
is like, no, there's this other side of her. They're like two in one. And so now all of a sudden the threat gets way more dangerous. And I just thought that's a fun way for that standard kind of thing to go, as opposed to we're fighting for a long time. Well, I've decided you're powerful enough. I mean what I'm doing here now. Here's my
Yeah,
next level. So I thought that's good.
that was very cool. Yep. Yep. And I didn't see it coming, man. Not at all.
Yeah,
Like,
no, right.
head cut off, crying in her hands, and then just this thing starts crawling out of her. I was like, "What in the shit is happening?"
Yep.
I loved it. Yeah.
Yep.
Um.
So yeah, so you were pretty happy with these demons.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. I mean, the other thing that was cool was that he was I don't know, praying mantis demon. You said his name earlier, but I don't remember. He was effectively the polar opposite of Tengen, right? Um, and he calls that out. You're so handsome, you're so great. I hate you.
Yeah.
Like, I can understand why his voice was annoying, but for me, that added to it. Like, I liked it so much. I liked that he hated him. He hated Tengen just purely based off of how cool he was. Like, this is the guy that I always wished that I could have been, right?
Mm-hmm.
But instead, my path to power took me this other totally different way, and I'll never be you, so you have to die because of it. Like, it's so simple but very effective.
Yeah. No, it's a good point because if it was a number of other Hashira that already have like scars and deformities or something, that wouldn't have that same impact. It's so that yeah, that's a really good point. And also the way that plays with brother and sister because she's very oh you're so ugly all the time to Tanjiro and stuff like oh my god such an ugly being
Yeah.
like you can't don't touch me kind of thing. And so that the fact that her brother is very ugly, how is that hate or love? Like, is that affecting why she has such a problem with other ugly people? Is it what does that come from exactly?
Good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that part, but that makes a lot of sense. You've got that brother sister turmoil that is certainly there. You can hear it when they're interacting. They're both blaming each other for not being sufficient enough in the battle,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there is that strain for sure. And then yeah, she might have resentment for him. Like, if you weren't so ugly, because when they were back as kids too, she had
Yeah.
this opportunity to kind of elevate herself, despite the fact that it was going to be in a way that was degrading to her, very
Mm-hmm.
much so, right? But he kept her from achieving that. He
Right.
kept her from getting out of the slum, basically.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's a very good point. Um, I always wonder sometimes, did the writers have this kind of depth to it, or are they just letting their fans like dissect it way more
Well,
than it was supposed to
I,
be?
I've always said that with, back in middle school, we'd be just dissecting Huck Finn or something like that, and I'm like,
Mhm.
well, how much of this is intentional and how
Mhm.
much of this is inherent in what it means to tell good stories, you
Yeah.
know? Like how much of that is intentional and how much of it's instinctual. When I'm writing stuff for D&D, it's really like the the making the connections or whatever. It's like this needs to feel satisfying in a way, but you're balancing that with reality, what's realistic as well. And so there's all that intention. But what are the other things that I'm unintentionally putting in there that just work because like I don't mean to or yeah,
Yeah.
like is it just an accident or is it because I don't know, maybe I'm saying that wrong, but
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
following you. You need to make threads tie together, and so you tie them together with one intent. Like, this needs to happen because of this, and then everybody else goes, but what about maybe maybe it's not that simple. Maybe all of these other things that you just also so happen to have planted because you just
Hmm.
needed to tie it all together. And it gives people the opportunity to interpret further, and when something is so face value, right, people desire that meaning to be a little bit deeper, and so they'll kind of create their own story off of it. So that could be what we're doing, which
When
is
it's
kind of the beauty of it.
it's the human nature to see patterns,
Mm-hmm.
just to make sense of things that actually don't make sense. They don't connect at all. But like, well, this has this in common, and this is just a weird natural thing that we do. So I assume that process happens during the writing as well, and it just gets
Yeah.
magnified in the consumption of it then too. Because I've always questioned for authors is like, were they that intelligent? Were they really thinking it through that much? Or are we just like pulling disparate strands together, to make something greater than it really is?
Unfortunately, it's probably the latter. But.
Or a combination. That's why, like, if I was an author, you'd want to try to just keep your mouth shut, right? You'd want to, you'd have your work out there. You let people have fun with it, and maybe make connections that you didn't intend, and that's fine. It's great.
Childish Gambino was the only person that I ever saw just full out admit that. Is they are asking him, what do these lyrics mean? What did you mean when you wrote that? And it's like, man, that's for you. Like, no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to say it. That's not what it's about.
Yeah. I like that, because it's really, art is what you interpret it to be. And, that's what they always say, like, well, this piece of art is stupid. Well, if you get something out of it, then it's not stupid. And it's whatever, so. And if someone tells you what they meant by their intention and it's not yours, it wrecks what that art is to you.
100%. Yeah, you don't get any good of it. The only possible value that you can get out of it is a super selfish and unsatisfying value, is that your interpretation was exactly theirs. That is what people want when they ask for that. Like, tell me what you meant by this. The only reason you had the desire is because you want to know that what you think is exactly what they think. You're looking for that confirmation.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If you're, So, okay. Last thing, at least that I have on my mind.
Yeah.
Because I know we're getting long here.
When I said this show, I'm like, I didn't think about like discussions, but I was like, oh, I'll have this little morning show. It'll be between 10 and 25 minutes long.
Sorry.
No. It's like I say, I haven't done a discussion one yet, and it only makes sense. Doesn't make sense to just chop it off. And I totally derailed this earlier too. We went down the rabbit hole of Japanese culture taboo versus like the age of kids and shows and all that stuff. So.
Well, you can just edit that. You can cut them off and pull it together if you want. So all shows, all anime have this thing where they are pushing the boundaries of physical capabilities and what is possible. But for some reason, this one just like took me out of it. I love this show. I really, really do. Inosuke is my favorite character. But when that dude popped back to life and he's like, oh, I shifted my organs, I was like, no, nuh-uh, that's not okay. Not okay with that.
There's a limit. I guess, look, again, we saw him dislocate all his joints so he can slither like a worm into a narrow tunnel on the ground that only ribbons could get through otherwise,
I'm good with that.
And the whole focus of the show is on my ability, and my technique is based on a breathing style. It's like, obviously breathing is very important to physical activity, but you don't get to change your breathing and then therefore acquire some new technique and like you level up, So I don't. I get what you're saying. They just have to be careful with it. You can't let everyone get out of everything because of some ability we had no foreshadowing of at all.
Right.
If it's earned, right? If it's earned because you set something up, oh, that's where that was going, then that makes sense. But if it's just like out of the blue, and it's unnecessary sometimes because you don't need to always have, you didn't need to have it so dire for Inosuke necessarily to still be like, oh, he lived, he's injured, but he lived, it doesn't have to be so severe.
Right. You can take him out of the fight in plenty of ways, but that you're exactly right. It cheapened it. And now going forward, it made those three characters feel untouchable. Right. And so now the risk doesn't feel as real. So the stakes don't feel as high. Like Dude took a thing straight through his heart. And
Where it
as
normally
my
is.
right, exactly. As my favorite character, I was like, no, oh my god! And then they brought him back like 2 seconds later to save the day, and I was like, well, but no, like that doesn't. I don't know. It eliminated the emotional tension I had for that, and now when Zenitsu gets his leg cut off because he's speed, right? And he gets his leg cut off. I'll just assume that he can just glue it back on or something. Like he'll use lightning to solder it back to his leg. Yeah, why not? That's how I'm feeling about it.
Okay. I think there's room. So bringing up the losing his leg or something like that, I think there's room to have those sort of stakes and then make a new character, set up a new character arc for a person without killing them kind of thing. So yes, I agree. The stakes for the lives of our main three plus Nezuko are kind of low in a way, because do we have the confidence that they might kill them off? It would be really crazy, but I don't think they're going to. When Rengoku died, I thought, hey, potentially anyone's on the table here other than Tanjiro, because I just think they're not gonna. It would be shocking to kill the main person. It's like killing Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy or something like that.
Yeah.
So you're missing the point of the story you're telling if you take your protagonist and just off them. But anyone that's not the protagonist should feel like they're on the chopping block at any moment, I think. Yeah. And so, right, doing this kind of thing removes that. But it would be really interesting to see Zenitsu lose his leg, lose the speed, and now have to overcome that in some like completely change technique or something. That'd be interesting.
It would be cool. Yeah. Damn it. I accidentally gave a cool idea. Sorry.
No, I mean, what if I wanted to say what if Inosuke he gets his face scarred, but it's like he'd love that. Yeah. Like, yes. See? You call me pretty? I'm not pretty. Look at this.
Yeah. Yep. And he'd have a reason to wear that. I like that. I expected the reason for the boar head was that he was going to be just severely disfigured. Right. And he's just beautiful.
Total twist. Mm-hmm. Yep. So. All right. Well, are you excited for the next season and what's to come and all that stuff?
Absolutely. Yep. I want to see which of the next Hashiras they go through. If we're in season 2/3/whatever, and we've gone through just 2 Hashiras, technically 3, I guess, and there's that many more, that'll be interesting. It's also super interesting that like the Hashiras that I thought they were all going to be elemental, wind, sound, fire, water, earth, but they're not. I mean, you got insect, you've got love, you've got serpent, like they're just kind of whatever.
Yeah.
So that keeps me curious. And I do want to see how Tanjiro blends these. They did a very specific job of talking about how you make your breathing your own and you create your own breathing style based off of what you've been taught. So they're definitely setting him up to blend this all into basically like one super style, I think.
Right. Yep. Well, very good. Thanks for the conversation. Gotta talk Demon Slayer. The next anime you watch, you let me know. You should jump on Jujutsu Kaisen. That's a fun one. There's only one season of it so far, so it's not like the daunting, startup, whatever. It's pretty new. It's another action kind of thing with really good character design.
It's not Horse Girls.
It's not Horse Girls, but I can't believe it. I forgot about that. We need to start that up. That was fun. We're watching a lot of stuff right now, so we didn't have room for that one, but gotcha. Yeah.
All right. I'll let you know.
All right. Well, that's been Ohayou Anime. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is the spin-off show where we're going to talk about anime news, or sometimes like this, discussions and deep dives on a specific anime. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll be back tonight. I'm going to be with my regular co-host, Andrea, and a friend, Emily, to talk about the latest 2 episodes of Raised by Wolves, season 2. So we'll be live on Twitch tonight, probably 8:30 Central. So otherwise, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, subscribe on all those places. That'd be great. And yeah, Mike, thanks again for joining me.
Thanks a lot, John. See you later.
Rap circle. I'm better than you. Period. Not at all concerned what it hit for, cause I've still come to raise hell like Mephisto. Please don't front, cause I'll karate chop your lymph node. Noodle arm punk, you punch and end up with your wrist broke. Don't need a 4-heater, but you come 4 feet approach me. I'm summoning focus of Gogeta. Slight work, so imagine me chilling when folks meet up, cause my purpose to have me relaxing with both feet up. Get the cream, precious metals or the crypto things. Your bars are light like the one that's on a Smith machine, but my Maxwell and I ain't speaking about the pretty wings. Watch your potty mouth or clean it out with the Listerine. I got a list that mean eclipsing me is not an instant thing. You about as generic as antihistamines. Listening is not your strong suit, that's why you fiddling. Focus on the wrong stuff.